My wife betrayed me once. She confessed her love for me only after throwing herself into the freezing waters of the Arctic Ocean, dressed in nothing but her underwear. I forgave her that one time. But tonight was different. She was home, completely drunk. The moment I walked in, she stumbled towards me, her kiss a chaotic press of lips that tasted of stale smoke. "When did you start smoking?" I asked, pulling back. She blinked, her eyes struggling to focus. "What are you talking about, Alex? I've never smoked in my life." A cold smile touched my lips as I wiped the smudge of her lipstick from my mouth. "And besides, my name isn't Alex. It was our anniversary, and I came home with a bouquet of her favorite flowers." The moment I opened the door, Chloe launched herself at me, her kisses frantic and deliberate as she pushed me back against the sofa. Beyond the heavy scent of alcohol on her breath, I could taste the distinct, acrid flavor of tobacco. She straddled my lap, her cheeks flushed, her eyes swimming with an emotion I no longer trusted. As her fingers fumbled with the buckle of my belt, I caught her wrist. "When did you start smoking?" I asked again, my voice devoid of warmth. She'd been complaining about work lately, about the stress of constant business trips. The thought that she might have picked up smoking out of pressure made me feel, for a fleeting second, like a failure of a husband. But then her hands cupped my face, a film of tears suddenly glossing her eyes. "Alex, what are you saying?" I don't smoke." Her voice trembled, her gaze pleading and timid. Her long eyelashes fluttered as she leaned in to kiss me again. This time, I let out a short, harsh laugh and turned my head away. The look I gave her was colder than any she had ever received from me. "Chloe," I said, my voice like ice. The use of her full name seemed to sober her up for a second, but then she just pressed her body closer. "Alex, don't be angry. I'll give you anything you want," she murmured, her hands moving to the hem of her own dress. "Alex, take me." She was so drunk, so lost in her own delusion. I grabbed her by the throat, not hard enough to hurt, but with enough force to make a point, and pushed her back against the sofa cushions. "Chloe, look at me," I commanded, my voice low and dangerous. "Look at who I am." She blinked slowly, her eyes hazy. A lazy smile spread across her face as her fingers traced the line of my jaw. "Alex, that was it." I stood up, my composure shattering like glass. 3 years ago, just before our engagement party, Chloe had betrayed me. I had spent the entire night looking for her, my calls going straight to voicemail, my frantic texts left unanswered. Defeated, I finally went home, only to find her pale, naked form lying in my bed. Next to her, dressing with an air of complete indifference, was a man named Alex. He didn't even acknowledge my presence, simply picking up his cigarettes and lighter before walking out the door. Chloe had knelt before me, clutching a sheet to her body, repeating over and over that she was sorry. She said she was drunk, that she thought Alex was me, that she didn't even know him. I was shattered. I canceled the wedding and buried myself in my research, taking a solo trip to the Arctic. To my shock, she followed me there. Her pale, desperate explanations had already worn me down. "Ethan, why won't you believe me?" she had cried against the vast, empty landscape. "Ethan, I swear on the Arctic itself, if my love for you is a lie, may this ocean claim my life." And with that, she had thrown herself from the ice shelf into the deadly sea. I knew better than anyone the lethal danger of those waters. I can say with certainty that if I had hesitated for 30 more seconds, Chloe would not have survived. It was that moment of weakness, of heart-wrenching pity, that made me forgive her. I convinced myself that it had all been a terrible, drunken mistake. But just today, I discovered that Chloe and Alex were university classmates. She had looked me in the eye and told me she didn't know him. I had even gone back through the entire guest list for our canceled engagement party. Alex's name was nowhere to be found. She had lied to me. Again. Yet, because today was our 7th anniversary, I had still bought her flowers and a gift. I had come home wanting to believe, only to have her whisper another man's name in my ear. My reason, stretched thin for so long, was beginning to snap. I sat at the liquor cabinet, pouring myself drink after drink, trying to wrestle my emotions into submission. I picked up a glass and saw the faint print of Chloe's lipstick on the rim from an earlier drink, and a fresh wave of disgust washed over me. Suddenly, a phone buzzed on the counter beside me. It was Chloe's. The bright screen was a harsh glare in the dim light, but the message on it was even harsher. "Alex, don't come around next time you're on your period." Chloe. "Alex, I'm willing now. Whenever you want me, I'm yours." Chloe. "Alex, please don't ignore me. Just give me one more chance." It was so pathetic it was almost funny. Without thinking, I picked up the phone and dropped it into my glass of whiskey. The screen flickered and died, and as the light faded, so did some of my boiling rage. A moment later, Chloe stirred on the sofa, pulling her short skirt down over her thighs. Her wavy hair fell across her face, hiding her expression. She took 2 wobbly steps, tripped over a misplaced bottle, and fell against my back, wrapping her arms tightly around me. "I really, really love you," she slurred into my shirt. Before, I would have immediately turned and held her, kissing the top of her head. But now, her words were poison. Who was she loving? Was it me? Maybe. I took a long swallow of my drink. I could feel the warmth of her body. Through my shirt, this woman who in our daily life was so cool and distant, so passive that I'd thought it was simply her nature. Now I saw the truth. It wasn't her nature. It was just me who failed to spark her passion. Her fingers trailed over my shoulder as she slid from behind me into my lap. She tilted my chin up, her lips ghosting mine in a series of small, desperate kisses. I shoved her away, my patience gone. She let out a small whimper and immediately clung to me again. "Alex, do you hate me this much?" She stood before me then, kicking off her high heels. Slowly, piece by piece, she began to remove her clothes. "Alex," she whispered, her eyes fixed on something only she could see. "I'm supposed to be marrying him soon." Every word, every movement was a new crack in my heart. But today, looking at her, all I felt was a profound and bottomless disappointment. Our marriage must have been such a burden for her. I lifted her into my arms, carried her to the bedroom, and dropped her unceremoniously onto the bed. Then I went back to the liquor cabinet and sat there for the rest of the night. I must have dozed off in the armchair, because the next thing I knew, a sharp slap stung my cheek. "Ethan, did you touch me?" Before I could even respond, a second slap landed. "Don't you know I'm on my period? Ethan, are you even human?" I licked the corner of my mouth where her ring had cut me and gave her a cold smile. "You dare to smile?" she shrieked, raising her hand again. "Where were you last night, Chloe?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. Her hand froze midair. Panic flickered in her eyes. Of course I was at home." She turned abruptly and disappeared into the bathroom. I lit a cigarette, the smoke doing little to clear my head. A while later, she emerged, wrapped in a towel, a cloud of steam following her. As she dried her hair, she glanced at me. "Have you set a date for the wedding?" she asked casually. "No." "Oh." She went back to her hair. She didn't care. I had been the one to pick out her wedding dress, which was still in its box, unworn and unseen by her. I had told myself she was just busy. Her phone, which I'd fished out of the glass and left to dry, suddenly buzzed. A private number. Chloe rushed to answer it. "Hello." Her voice was a nervous whisper. She glanced at me, as if to make sure I wasn't listening. But I heard it. I heard Alex's voice on the other end. After that call, her phone exploded. A constant stream of calls and texts, from men and women alike. From the snippets of conversation I overheard, I pieced it together. Alex had been in a car accident. He was in the hospital. He needed money. Chloe frantically searched her bedside table, grabbing the few bills she had and stuffing them into her pocket. "Honey," she said, turning to me with a look of feigned nonchalance. "I remember we had about 5,000 in cash at home, right?" Her eyes, however, were locked on the thick stack of bills I was holding in my hand. "Honey, a friend of mine is in the hospital, and it's an emergency. Alex needs money," I said, cutting through her lie. Her eyes widened in shock. She hadn't realized I'd overheard. "Well, he doesn't have many friends, no one else to turn to, so." I wasn't interested in her excuses. I held up the cash. "Our wedding is set for next Sunday." She stared, but it was as if she hadn't heard a word I said. Her gaze was fixed solely on the money. I started to pull my hand back. The flash of anger in her eyes as she thought she'd miss her chance was quickly replaced by a look of pure resentment towards me. "This money is for our wedding, Chloe." She let out a dry, forced laugh and tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear, her desperation making her forget all pretense. I grabbed her wrist, my eyes narrowed. "Chloe, is there anything you want to tell me?" Her mind was already at the hospital. Her eyes never once met mine. They were glued to the cash. Her free hand came to rest on top of mine, on top of the money. "Ethan, I promise I'll pay it back before the wedding." I smiled, a thin, humorless smile, and withdrew my hand, letting her take the money. For the first time all day, she smiled at me, a real, if fleeting smile. Then she turned and rushed for the door. "Are we still getting married?" "Chloe." I called her name twice. She didn't even slow down. I don't know if she genuinely didn't hear me, or if she simply didn't want to. I started to call her name a third time, but the word died in my throat. Let her go. I looked around the home we had shared for 3 years. It felt cold, desolate. Maybe we were wrong from the very beginning. I waited until after midnight, but Chloe never came back. Then, her best friend posted an update online. It was a picture of Alex, pale and still in a hospital bed, an oxygen mask over his face. And there was Chloe, sitting beside him, her hands clutching his tightly, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Her friend's caption read, "I believe that true love can conquer all hardships." I stared at the post, reading it over and over again. Then, I quietly liked it. In the long stream of supportive comments, I added 3 simple, out-of-place words. "That's nice." Then I closed my phone and began to pack. I placed the signed divorce papers in an envelope. I put our rings inside with them. The $5,000 could be their wedding gift. After that, I walked out of that house and never looked back. In the weeks that followed, Chloe never once tried to contact me. I took a leave from my research and, to clear my head, started working a night shift delivery job. By sheer coincidence, one of my deliveries was to the same hospital where Alex was staying, to the room right next to his. As I approached, I heard voices from the hallway. It was Chloe and her friend. "Chloe, you've been here for days. Don't you think your husband will be worried? Maybe you should go home." "It's fine," Chloe's voice replied, dismissive. "He's not that petty." "But didn't you say you were getting married on Sunday? Aren't you going to go back and check on things?" There was a pause. "We can just postpone it. It's just a wedding date. It's not that important. Besides, he's busy too. Pushing it back is better for both of us." "So, are you two really going to get married?" her friend asked. My own heart seemed to stop, waiting for her answer. "No," Chloe began, but just as she spoke, her eyes met mine across the hallway. "No what? No, they weren't getting married?" Her expression shifted in an instant. She forced a smile for her friend. "Of course we are. What else would we do?" Her friend turned, saw me, and her face fell. Chloe quickly came over and linked her arm through mine. "Honey, are you here to pick me up?" Just then, a scream came from inside the room. "Chloe, Alex is awake." "He's awake." My arm was suddenly empty. Chloe was gone, rushing into the hospital room. She paused at the doorway, looking back at me with a flicker of guilt. "Honey, I'll come home tonight and explain everything, okay?" She didn't wait for my answer before disappearing inside. It didn't matter. When she finally went home tomorrow, she would find out that for us, there was no future. After a few more days of deliveries, I felt my mind clear. I quit the job and threw myself back into my work. I booked a flight and returned to the Arctic. The signal was poor, the isolation immense, and I almost managed to forget her entirely. Then, a string of messages finally came through. "Chloe, Ethan, I'm hungry. Where are you? Chloe, come home and cook for me." Her same old imperious tone. I shook my head and put the phone away. The wind howled across the ice as I collected samples, my work taking me to a small, remote ice island. A jolt of memory hit me. This was the place. This was where Chloe had stood, stripping off her coat, then her mask, before plunging into the sea. The scene played out in my mind as if it were yesterday. My phone buzzed again. A call from Chloe, the connection choppy. "Ethan, are you divorcing me? Sign the papers. The agreement will be legally binding in a month. You don't need to call me again." I expected anger, but instead, I could hear panic in her voice. "Ethan, what do you mean? You were the one who wanted to get married, and now you're just calling it off." She sounded hysterical. "And what was that comment you left on my friend's post? Couldn't you tell she was just joking around?" Honestly, I said into the wind, "No, I couldn't." "Are you really going to be this petty over something so small?" "Ethan, I was so wrong about you. Where are you? I'll come talk to you in person." The wind shrieked, her voice cutting in and out. "Hello? Ethan? Ethan, say something." I heard nothing but static. The signal was truly gone. A moment later, my phone died, the extreme cold finally killing the battery. I put it away and focused on my work. Perhaps Chloe would never, in her entire life, recognize what she had done wrong. A month later, I returned from the Arctic. As I walked up to my small apartment, dragging my suitcase, I saw a figure huddled by my door. I stopped, then took out my keys to unlock the door. Chloe looked up, her face tear-streaked and gaunt. "Ethan." She looked like she hadn't slept in a month. I opened the door to go inside, but she blocked my way. "Ethan, it's been a month. Where have you been?" She looked at me with the expression of a deeply wronged victim. I've been looking for you for a month, Ethan. Looking for me for what? Did you sign the papers? I held out my hand. Chloe stomped her foot like a petulant child. Ethan, you're making me really angry. I'm not signing them. I would rather die. Then we'll settle it in court. I tried to push past her. She slipped inside my apartment before I could stop her. Ethan, are you still holding a grudge over that? I wanted to explain, but you never gave me a chance. I set down my luggage and sat at the small table. I have only one question. Did you know Alex before that night, or not? She looked down. Then she grabbed my wrist, her grip tight. I was afraid it would upset you, so I lied. Even after all this time, hearing her admit it still lit a fire in my gut. My home is too small for you, Chloe. Go find Alex. She burst into tears, the loud, theatrical sobs that had always worked on me before. But now, I felt nothing. Ethan, I have no feelings for Alex. Besides, he's engaged now. You can't just assume things. We've been together for so long, don't we? Have any history? Do you think I'm some kind of heartless monster? Alex just helped me out once, and I wanted to repay him. That's all. Her voice droned on, a litany of excuses. A headache began to throb in my temples. I stood up, grabbed her arm, and started pulling her towards the door. No, I'm not leaving. If you don't forgive me, I'm not leaving. I managed to shove her out and lock the door behind her. She pounded on it for a solid half an hour before her footsteps finally faded away. The sudden cancellation of the wedding sent my mother into a panic. By the time I got her message, she was already on her way to talk to Chloe, assuming it was an issue with the dowry. A spike of alarm went through me. I grabbed my coat and rushed to Chloe's apartment. The air outside was already cold. By the time I got there, my ears and hands were numb and red. I was hesitating, wondering whether to knock or call, when I heard voices from inside. A man's voice and Chloe's. You're really going to marry her? Chloe asked. It was Alex. You just be a good girl and marry Ethan. He'll forgive you. What's so good about her? Alex, how can you be so cruel? There was a pause, and the distinct sound of a lighter flicking. Alex must be smoking. Her, he said, his voice laced with contempt. She's cleaner than you are. If they were talking like this, my mom wasn't inside. I rubbed my frozen hands together. Alex, am I really so worthless in your eyes? Don't play the victim with me, he sneered. And don't look at me with those eyes. The number of men you've been with is no less than me. That's not true. Really? Then whose baby is that in your belly? Alex let out a derisive laugh. Don't tell me it's mine. It is. It can't possibly be Ethan's, right? Listen to me. Get rid of it soon. You might still be able to hide it from him. I heard footsteps approaching the door. I scrambled to get away, but my limbs were stiff with cold. I had barely made it down the hall when I ran right into my mother. Mom, son, you were about to get married. Why the sudden change of heart? Is the dowry not enough? I can talk to Chloe, tell her to give me some more time to scrape it together. Before I could explain, the apartment door opened. Alex strode out. He froze for a second when he saw me. You? I ignored him, grabbing my mother's arm to stop her from rushing forward. Mom, it's not about money. Don't worry about it. I can handle this myself. My mom looked from Alex back to the apartment door, the worry in her eyes replaced by dawning horror. Not money, she murmured. He just came out of your apartment, didn't he? She started to move towards Alex, but I held her firm. Mom, Chloe and I have already broken up. I moved back to my own place. Whoever she sees, or whoever stays the night, has nothing to do with us anymore. I rarely used such a stern tone with my mother. She saw the resolve in my eyes and finally nodded. All right. Chloe chased after us then, her face pale. Ethan, when did you get here? Was she afraid I saw Alex, or afraid of what I might have heard? I forced a hollow laugh. Just got here. What? She visibly relaxed. It's nothing. Annie, were you looking for me? Ethan and I just had a little misunderstanding. Why don't we go inside and talk? To my alarm, my mother actually looked tempted. I stepped between them. That's enough. If we have anything to talk about, I'll call you later. Only when Chloe seemed convinced that I would actually contact her did she back down. Okay, I'll be waiting. I took my mother home. She wouldn't let me leave until I gave her an explanation. I gave her a heavily edited version of the truth, omitting the ugliest parts. She just sighed. It's all fate, she said. It was late, so I stayed the night. The next few weeks were a blur of work at the lab. My eyes were strained, so I decided to make an appointment with an ophthalmologist. As I was waiting at the hospital, I saw a familiar figure at the gynecology department reception. It was Chloe, trying to schedule an abortion. Are you here by yourself? Didn't your husband come? We need his signature. the nurse said. No, that's not necessary. I can sign it myself. Chloe was bundled up in a coat and a headscarf, but I would know her voice anywhere. I took out my phone and sent her a text. Me, let's talk. I'm at the hospital. I'll wait until 2 p.m. I saw her look down at her phone, her shoulders slumping. Chloe, can we do it tomorrow? I have something I need to do today. I replied immediately. It was now or never. Chloe seemed to panic. I saw her turn back to the nurse. Can I reschedule the procedure for tomorrow? We're fully booked for the next month. Besides, your uterine wall is very thin. Waiting another month could be dangerous. Chloe stood there, trapped between two impossible choices. I got my eye drops and left. She never replied to my message. It wasn't until I finished my project at the lab that I checked my phone again. It was flooded with missed calls and messages from her. My colleagues had left me notes saying Chloe had been waiting outside my apartment for days. I didn't go back to my apartment. My mother had insisted I go on a blind date, and it was the only way to get her off my case. My date was a sweet-looking girl named Mia, with big, kind eyes and a shy smile. Hi, were you the one Leanne set me up with? She asked. We introduced ourselves and found that we actually had a lot to talk about. We had just exchanged contact information when Chloe stormed into the cafe. She slapped the phone out of my hand. Ethan, who gave you permission to go on a date? I quickly picked up my phone, blowing the dust off the now shattered screen protector. What are you doing here? What am I doing here? Why can't I be here? Ethan, I'm the one you're supposed to marry. Mia, who I'd briefly told about Chloe, looked terrified and scrambled to sit further away. Chloe shot her a venomous glare. You little tramp, trying to steal my man? Chloe, that's enough, I said, my voice low. A crowd was gathering. People started whispering, pointing at me. Look at that guy. He's about to get married and he's already cheating. What a scumbag. If I had a wife that beautiful, I'd never leave the house. Don't be sad, sweetie, one older woman said to Chloe. A man like that isn't worth it. My anger began to boil. Chloe, sensing she had the crowd on her side, started playing the victim. Chloe, are you done with this circus? You told me you'd call me to talk, she accused, tears welling in her eyes. But you never did. You just went out on a date. I didn't try to find you. She faltered. My phone was dead that day. You just didn't want to talk, that's all. I shrugged. Do you really want me to spell it out for you in front of all these people? The judgment from the crowd was becoming unbearable. I looked at Chloe, all the old affection gone, replaced by ice. She flinched, the aggressive fire in her eyes sputtering out. What? My phone was just dead. She mumbled. Was it? I said, my voice rising. Yes, it was just. Before she could spin another lie, I unlocked my phone, went to my photo gallery, and tossed it to her. Then who is this getting? An abortion? You're supposed to be recovering after a procedure like that. You didn't even wait, you just came straight here. The color drained from her face. She stared at the picture on the screen, whispering, Impossible. You've been following me. I don't have that kind of time. I saw you when I went to the eye doctor. She frantically tried to delete the photo. The onlookers couldn't see the picture, but they could read the story on Chloe's face. The whispers changed direction, and the crowd began to disperse. So it was the woman who was cheating all along. Let's go. You see all kinds of crazy things these days. Don't bother deleting it, I said calmly. I have copies at home. Do you want them? She looked up at me, her eyes swimming in tears, and threw her arms around me. Ethan, I was wrong. I was wrong. I shouldn't have lied to you. We've been together for so long. You can't just forget our history, can you? She looked at me with such desperation, but my answer was destined to be one she didn't want to hear. What history? The only history that matters here is the one you have with Alex. I glanced at my watch. If you hurry, you might still be able to make it to his wedding. She shook her head violently. No, I don't want anyone but you. I shrugged helplessly. Then I can't help you. I turned to leave, but she grabbed my leg, refusing to let go. I don't hit women, so I simply gestured for the cafe's security guard. Ethan, please don't leave me. I can have a baby for you, too. I don't want a dowry. I don't want any money. I don't want anything, she wailed. Do you want a boy or a girl? I'll give you whatever you want, okay? Let go. I won't. 2 security guards had to pry her off of me. As they dragged her away, she screamed, Ethan, how can you be so cruel? I've humbled myself completely. What more do you want from me? I already know I was wrong to leave you. Why are you pushing me like this? Her cries and accusations echoed through the restaurant as Mia and I made a hasty exit. I hope she didn't scare you, I said once we were outside. I'm so sorry about that. No, it's okay, Mia said, shaking her head. I just never imagined. Imagine what? Nothing. It's just, after so many years together, and you being such a forgiving person, I never imagined you really wouldn't forgive her this time. I held up my phone, showing her the spiderweb of cracks on the screen protector. You see this? She nodded. It's broken. Do you think a single, I'm sorry, can make it whole again? You could say it 1,000,000 times, and the result would still be the same. I put Mia in a taxi and went home. When I arrived, a package was waiting for me. It was the official divorce certificate from the court. Chloe went to Alex's wedding, arriving just as it was ending. From the altar, Alex saw her sitting in the back and his brow furrowed. What's wrong? His new bride, a sweet-faced girl named Lily, asked him. He just shook his head and smiled reassuringly at her. After the ceremony, in an empty corner of the reception hall, Alex dragged Chloe away. What are you doing here? He won't forgive me, Alex, she sobbed. He's never going to forgive me. So you come to me? Lily is a simple girl. I don't want her to worry. We shouldn't see each other anymore. Alex, she cried, are you abandoning me too? His expression turned thunderous. This is your last warning. If Lily finds out about any of this, I will make you regret it. He turned to walk away, but she lunged for him. Alex, I have no home now. Please don't marry her, please. Get lost, he roared, shoving her so hard she stumbled and fell. He stalked towards her and grabbed her by the throat. My patience has a limit. Don't come looking for death at my door. He threw her aside and walked away without a backward glance. She knew him well enough to know that if she followed, he would not hold back. From the shadows, Chloe watched him smile and laugh with his new wife. She watched them make their loving exit. Then, she went home to an empty apartment. I threw myself into my work. I would occasionally go on a blind date when my mother insisted, but my heart wasn't in it. I saw Chloe a couple more times around our small city. Each time, I turned and walked the other way before she could see me. She was always with a different man. The last time I saw her, it was just before the new year. She was alone, looking thin and haggard. She was wearing a flimsy dress and stockings despite the bitter cold, her heavy makeup failing to hide the exhaustion in her eyes. I clutched the bag of fireworks I had just bought and hurried home. The new year was coming. It was time for a fresh start.